Hello, everyone, and welcome to Afternoon Tea, episode 6, where we go over more Harry and Meghan news, you could say, throughout the week. Of course, we cover maybe a smidge of that in the Crown Report, but this time it's gonna be a lot about Harry because Harry's in Canada and it's starting to get weird. Like, it's genuinely starting to be a bit of a weird situation. You feel like you're watching a guy within the midst of a midlife crisis, and he's doing an immense amount of damage control right now after quote unquote, he even labels it Hatgate. And the thing is with Harry, and obviously there's more to go over this week, but what I found sort of really interesting about it that he doesn't really actually get what the issue is, which is that he's a liar. He lied about his alleged allegiances, or he's lying now and says he actually was always a Blue Jays fan when he was not ever really a Blue Jays fan until people yelled at him and told him he needed to be a Blue Jays fan. So again, it's just starting to get really, really, really odd. Then we also have him at a dinner talking about how Canada gave him, or Toronto more particularly, gave him Meghan Markle, which is actually not the case. Like, she's not from Toronto. She briefly lived in Toronto for a job, but she's not from Toronto. It made sense. It was very cute when King Wilhelm Alexander did that during the Argentinian state visit because he married a woman from Argentina. That was cute. That made sense. This doesn't. And then he again apologized for the hat. I'm like, dude, this is not a big issue. And somehow the hat gets an apology, but not how abhorrently he has treated his family over the last 5 years. So I feel like there's just so much to go over there. So that will be probably the biggest chunk of our time is talking about Harry in Canada because there's just so much to go over there. It's a little crazy. And Harry, again, I feel like is really losing his grasp on reality and is absolutely, completely, and utterly desperate to be royal again. And despite what, like the cute little line he had about his wife, I do not think the man is happy. You don't go around begging for your old job when you're happy in your new one, you're happy in your new life. He's not happy. So we're going to go over that. We also have, I think, obviously talking about Meghan Markle's return to acting, basically acknowledging that everything else has failed, as ever, is a failure. I did a whole video last night, guys. Funny story about the Megan's return to acting, and it actually got like a little check against it for not being not as suitable ad wise as pretty much all my other stuff. I never have that issue. And I think it's just because I used the still from Meghan Markle doing her sex scene in Suits. Yep. So apparently if you do that, you get struck. I mean, what can we do? But so much like that Harry's blowing the hat thing way out of proportion is just absolutely fascinating. And then we do also have, now I will preface this because I think I need to do an entire video on it and not just talk about it here. But is Queen Letizia the Meghan Markle of Spain? There's been some really, really interesting chatter going on within, kind of the Spanish people I follow and these sorts of things. And I was even going through and digging back through like the archives of Royal Dish, which is a royal forum, talking about all the dynamics in Spain, because Spain has its issues. It's not like the UK though. And I will say right now that I think Letizia is the only reason actually Spain has survived as a monarchy to this point. They have a lot to be thankful for Queen Letizia. And I think she gets way, way, way too much flack for things that are not her fault and not really her problem. I think she's the only reason it's surviving. Obviously, Prince William is he's probably coming back from Brazil. Now he got to meet with a couple other royals as well. Princess Madeline was also in New York City recently, and I'm so bummed there are no pictures from it. No pictures from her at the Childhood Awards. Her dress looked great. The dress last year and the makeup last year, not so good. This year it looked fab, but I don't have any still pictures, so I can't totally kind of get the full effect. But maybe I'll still have to look. But this is where we're going to begin, guys, which is Hatgate. Hatgate, according to Harry, is when, again, let's go back. What was this, just last week? or the week before, 2 weeks ago, I guess. Harry wore a Dodgers hat to sit in the owner's box of the LA Dodgers. And then it came out, and he got a lot of flack for that because Canada has spent money on them, a lot of money on them. And he's representing Los Angeles Dodgers. And yet his father is obviously head of the Commonwealth of Canada. Now, all of a sudden, like we all think, okay, Harry must be a Dodger fan, right? But then Meghan Markle's friend posts this story, kind of reposting Meghan's initial story, saying, "Sorry, H. We know you were rooting for the Blue Jays." And I'm like, when did that happen? A couple of days ago, he was just representing the Dodgers. So is he a liar? I think so. And I think the lies are getting worse. He's kind of lying about lying about lying, trying to do damage control over this. And it's just getting to the point of it's like a little odd how much he's focusing on this. So let's go ahead and watch his pathetic attempt at damage control. This is so bad. You can tell the dude, if he goes through any sort of media training, does not listen, he runs his mouth, he can't talk well, and this looks like a put on stunt. And it just reeks of inauthenticity, of fakery, of, oh my gosh, people were mad at me. Oh no. Oh no. So I gotta make it better. And I did have an idea, so I'm gonna make sure I write it down. But because I want to make sure I get to it. And sometimes when I'm chatting, I don't quite remember. Anyways, so Harry did this like weird attempt to kind of reframe the situation. But honestly, I just think it compounds it and makes it worse. I don't know how he does this. I just don't quite know how he gets it so wrong every time. It's this weird, like, this poor guy. I mean, not really. I don't really think it's poor in that way. But like, you can just tell he's oblivious to like everything in life and is just desperately trying to recapture the royal magic that has escaped him since he got together with his wife. So let's go ahead and look at here. Ooh, so you can't actually, interesting, you can't actually comment a dislike here. Find that very interesting. This is from CTV. So I was going to see what the ratio is, but unfortunately, guys, I can't see what the ratio is. So the ratio, what they mean by that is the percentage of likes to dislikes on YouTube videos. This is a feature that is hidden. You have to actually have a extension put in by Chrome to actually see it. So let's listen to this pathetic man attempt to make lemons out of like rotten lemonade. It's kind of pathetic. And honestly, this placement here is awful. Like, why are they doing the interview here? So I will have thoughts. So we will pause. Like, again, guys, you know the drill. Every about 15 seconds.
Is there anything you'd like to say at all about wearing that LA Dodgers hat last week and getting into hot water?
LA Dodgers hat, Hatgate.
So number one, he really shouldn't be saying Hatgate, because he's putting a word there that didn't exist before, because now we can say Hatgate, Prince Harry's Hatgate. And the other interesting thing, this was actually something that like I saw in Veep, which is I think a show that very much reflects what Washington DC is actually like. And one of the characters, he's a comms guy, accidentally says sort of the wrong thing. He says Meyer the liar, and then oh no, but it's not that, he goes, and then everybody runs with Meyer the liar because he put it in their mind. So here he's putting it in our minds as Hatgate, and you can tell that because he's referencing it that way, it really, 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 really stung him that people were massively hating on him, like massively, especially in Canada. It really, really stung him. And so now he feels the need to go and respond to it. And number one, this was probably not really anything to respond to, because if he wanted to support the Dodgers, who cares? But this is the thing, guys, that goes back to when you are a royal, whether or not you agree, you by extension represent the royal family. So this goes back again to this idea Harry needs to be severed from the royal fold. Then, buddy, you can support whoever you want. But let's be honest here, Harry doesn't care about baseball. And we can tell based around how he answers this.
Well, firstly, I would like to apologize to Canada for wearing it. Secondly,
Why does he need to apologize to Canada? What about apologizing to his father, his brother, his sister-in-law? Like, where are the apologies for them? But no, he's upset over people criticizing him for a hat. Like, number one, this tells you he is way oversensitive about kind of the dumbest things. This is not a super important issue. Your future with Canada is not that important because he doesn't have a future with Canada. Like, I just don't even understand what he thinks he's doing and why they even need to have this discussion. Just let it blow over. But he wants so badly to be liked that he's going down this path that he doesn't really need to go down, and just reminds all of us that he will apologize over a hat, but not for making the last couple of years of his father's life a misery. He places a hat and what hat he's wearing higher priority to apologize for than to his own family. His conscience is clear when it comes to there, but his conscience is not clear when it comes to Canada. Again, it's very, very weird, and I don't think puts him in the best light at all.
was under duress. There wasn't.
So there's the interesting thing. So maybe let's go back a second here and listen to. He was under duress, guys, to put that hat on.
Secondly, I was under duress. There wasn't much choice. I was invited to the LA Dodgers box or the dugout by the owner himself, so I was doing what I thought was the polite thing to do.
So, couple of things here. Number one, true freaking sports fans do not, just because they're invited to a box, wear the hat of an imposing team if they don't want to. Ben Affleck in a movie outright refused to wear a Yankees hat because he is a Red Sox fan. So number one, this tells you Harry's not a real fan of either. He doesn't really care. And so to him to put more emphasis on this is almost just silly because it's like, you don't really care. You didn't really care in the first place. So now all of a sudden, why are you trying so freaking hard? Why are you trying so hard to do that? Because it's just not really necessary. And number two, what duress? You weren't under duress. Duress sort of means, let's look it up real quick, just so we can have the right definition in mind. Threats of violence, constraints, or other action brought to bear by someone to do something against their will or better judgment. So he was invited to the box. And so he was under duress. I mean, we have a video of him, from his own freaking wife cheering while wearing that hat. What duress were you under? You were in the dugout box. Nobody else, you might have noticed, was wearing a Dodgers hat. Only Harry and his wife in that box. Other ones were wearing, I think they were wearing more shirts or something like that. Harry could have worn a World Series shirt. Harry could have not worn a hat at all. He explains why he didn't. And it's a very petty reason. One, it's so ironic because he made such interesting comments about his brother in regards to hair loss. And now he's experiencing it and trying to blame that on wearing a hat. He could not wear a hat. He could say, well, I will go in and do this game with you, but I've got to wear a Blue Jays hat. Harry just shows his fickleness here and how much of that display with his wife was fake. And I'm sorry, but the only person I think that was putting Harry under duress was his own stinking wife. That's who I think was putting him under duress. Could you not, if you are, again, conscious of the optics of you as a British prince representing the United States over Canada, could you not call the owner and go, hey, so, I have a kind of a tricky situation here. Do you mind if I wear a Blue Jays hat? Honestly, it would have actually made Harry and Meghan's dynamic more interesting. And it shows she's fickle too, because did she not represent Toronto with the Blue Jays hat for a long time? And then all of a sudden that seems to have really disappeared on her. And so it just reveals how much of a fake interaction that was at the games. Everything about it was fake. It was all fake. And He's a coward. I think I see Ronnie Keene here says, what a wuss. Yeah, he's a wuss. He's a wuss. He's a coward. He could have stood up and said something. He could have asked for clarification. There is no excuse for this. And I feel like him trying to like damage control on it honestly makes it worse. It makes it so apparent how much of a liar he is, how much he'll go on with things and lie to the public just because like that's what he wants to do. And so there's so many ways he could have done this that was not this messed up. And to have this reaction later, again, Megan posted nothing about baseball. We heard nothing about baseball from them until they went to the World Series. And all of a sudden, he's a fan of the Toronto Blue Jays. He only became that after he got the criticism. And he actually even confirms that basically. Might be a bit of a Freudian slip, but this is why you got to be a bit better about your communication strategy, Sussex team, because it sucks.
But I'm going to wear this from now on to make sure I don't make any more of those mistakes.
He's going to wear that from now on? Like what? You don't even wear a hat that much. Is he going to wear that hat around the United States? He doesn't even wear the LA Dodgers hat when we've seen him like wear hats, because he does wear hats quite frequently. He doesn't wear a sports team hat. He doesn't care. So him doubling down and going, oh, no, I'm really a fan. I'm really a fan. It's like, no, you're not. You're a liar. This makes it infinitely worse. I don't know who thought this was a good idea to have a very obviously strategically placed hat there for Harry to put on and go, I'm going to wear this now. You should have just done that from the beginning or just not engaged at all. Your wife wanted publicity. Your wife wanted attention. Her new line just launched and you went to the game that you did not care about, that you did not really have any investment in. And then you made a series of dumb mistakes and then are trying to backtrack and then compounding the problem. This is the issue when you are trying to, I think, pursue like more fame and everything over and attention over substance. Because now you're in a mess and you're trying to dig yourself out of it. And the best thing to have done is to not even really make an apology, but just to let it die. Because it was 2 weeks ago now, or 2 weeks ago. Most of us have forgotten about that. So you could have just let it go on, but no. You're reminding everybody again and again and again of the problem. And it reminds us again, oh yeah, you did the hat thing. All of a sudden you're not doing the hat. Like, I mean, I swear their PR team hates them. Their PR team hates them and makes them make fools of themselves for their own amusement. I swear.
But the other piece to this was, as you could probably relate, when you're missing a lot of hair on top and you're sitting under floodlights, you'll take any hat that's available.
So he just basically admits he'll take any hat. So it wasn't even about the team. He was just going to take any hat. So he did not care. He was more worried. This again tells you he was more worried about the floodlights than the game. He did not care about the game. His wife didn't care about the game. They were only there to see and be seen. And I don't think there's anything else more annoying, I feel like, than people who just admit, yeah, I was just there for the attention and nothing else. I didn't care about any of that. I just wanted the attention. And what's also funny about that, of course, is that he made a big hubbubaloo in his book about his brother losing his looks because he lost his hair. And now we had this dude who's desperately clinging to the wisps of hair he has on top of his head and sort of kind of quietly acknowledging, yeah, my hair is gone. So yeah, sometimes like karma comes back to bite you on the butt sometimes. And that, of course, has happened to Harry. Honestly, he looks a little bit spastic there. He's like, oh, please believe me. Him and Meghan both, I think, get the crazy eyes a bit. Like, you know, he's so out of it here. He's like, believe me, I wanted to be a fan. But again, he admits he's not really a fan.
So game 5, game 6, game 7, I was Blue Jays throughout. Now that I've admitted that, it's going to be really hard for me to return back to Los Angeles.
Okay. Did you see that? So games 5, 6, and 7, then, only then, was he rooting for the Toronto Blue Jays. Well, Harry, I believe that 1, 2, and 3, come before 4, 5, 6, 7. So you're again acknowledging to us that you were not paying any attention to any of this until you sat in those seats on game 4. And again, I don't think there's anything more annoying than a true sports fan to find out this dude wasn't a true sports fan of this, did not care, and sat in the front row. And then, like Heather said here, which is true, now he's insulting Dodgers fans. He's like, oh, the people in LA are going to be mad at me. Harry, they don't care. What they care about more is that you don't really care. That's the issue. Because I will totally admit, guys, not a sports fan. I don't have any teams I root for except for the teams my dad likes. Because I am obligated as the daughter to support my dad's my dad's chosen sports teams, or my brother-in-laws or whatever. Family, I will support your chosen sports teams. I don't really care, but I will support yours. Harry is just admitting again that there is no there. He is not invested in baseball. He doesn't really care. He only started caring after he went to the game. Maybe he found it somewhat engaging, but he's also in sort of the height of the feeling of the games because obviously the World Series is the biggest part of it. But he's doesn't have any investment in the sport. He is not a true sports fan of this sport, and he's making it all so much worse. And I feel like he's sort of saying he was under duress by the owners makes them look bad in a way. Like, this is all so bad. I can't believe, again, guys, I swear, his PR team hates him. They hate him, and they let him run his mouth because, they enjoy watching the chaos unfold. But also they probably get yelled at. So, and we should also say that this is just a hat. It doesn't really matter that much. But what's interesting to me is Harry's overreaction to it, that he's so stinking sensitive to it is a little crazy because it's not really that big a deal in some ways. The lying about being a sports fan, the lying about, which team he supported. That's an issue. But the rest of it is not. And again, the LA is a huge place. And although there is obviously a lot of support for the LA Dodgers, I don't think they want to claim him either. Nobody wants to claim him because he's not a true sports fan. So when you're not a true sports fan, nobody is clamoring to keep you on their side. Because obviously when Harry and Meghan went to the game, the Dodgers lost. The Blue Jays won. So Harry and Meghan are sort of bad. So yeah, Harry markled the Dodgers, and then the Blue Jays first, then the Dodgers, and then sort of all of them. So he's really catastrophically dumb here. This is just not a good PR move to make. And again, it comes back down to that simple thing. I don't even think the interviewer really believes him all that much. It just comes down to the simple thing of authenticity, which him and his wife clearly lack. And I think in some ways he's probably making up for the decisions his wife made or attempting to. It's just all so bad.
But no, I'm very sorry to the Canadian public. Devastated that the Blue Jays lost, but go Jays.
I was really kind of bummed that this popped up in the corner because it's like he is not at all interested in this game. He's not all that interested in his team, and he will not do, let's say, like next year, will he care at all about any of this? Maybe just because he's kind of invested now, but honestly, I don't think so. So yeah, Heather says the interviewer is like, you're an idiot. Yep, that's kind of it. So Olga says, and this is good to remind, Olga Garcia says, Britt, can you do a video of the Oprah interview comparing their statements then and how they are backtracking with actions and words now? Well, that has been a little bit, but honestly, that was actually one of my first videos, was going over the Oprah Winfrey interview. Unfortunately, I have not been able to find the full thing again. But yeah, that was actually one of the first videos I did. So kind of crazy when you think about it, because it was March 2022. So it was a year post the Oprah Winfrey interview. So let's go ahead and move over to this one. So Harry is at True Patriot Love. And there's a new event Harry is doing as well, and we'll get there. It's like a Canadian Real Estate Association like meeting. And I'm like, wow, he really is pay to play now. He really is going to anything to do it. So yeah. So let's listen to his second apology. And again, he doesn't really need to apologize. Really, he doesn't. He should just take his lumps and move on. That's honestly how, if I was advising Harry and Meghan, that's how I would have told him to play it, is just to let it blow over and let it move on. They always double down on stuff and they always make it worse. It's just crazy. It's absolutely it's like it's insane.
Before I begin, I think it's important that we once again address the blue-hatted elephant in the room.
So, I mean, I guess he's trying to be funny, but again, it's like he's trying so hard, guys. And it comes down to this thing where he's just trying to be liked. That is what he's trying to do.
What was the elephant in the room? But now, well, I was going to do this in French, but let's just do it in English.
Because he can't speak French. Although, doesn't his wife speak French? Can she not help him speak French here? I guess not.
I am truly sorry for wearing a Dodgers hat.
So he has a somewhat, you could say, good crowd here, and he's so happy that he's getting applause, guys. It's moving him to death that he is getting applause. He loves it so much. And it's just, yeah. He's absolutely loving all of that.
No excuses. There were two reasons for wearing it. First, our host that night, and those who haven't watched.
And I feel like this is like a bit of a brag sesh. He's like, "Oh, the owner invited us to the dugout box." And I'm like, I really think this was just simply again, I think this was all done by his PR team. They weren't really invited. They arranged to be invited.
CTV News. This is important. First, our host that night was the owner of the Dodgers, and I believed it was a polite thing to do.
He believed it was the polite thing to do. But again, you could have asked. That is what your team is there to do. It's not like you were going in there totally blind. You could have asked. You didn't.
Canadians, you would support that. Second, hang on. Second, the 900,000 watt floodlights shining down on an ever-increasing bald spot.
So yeah, you are bald, Harry, and you really should kind of trim the top and just go bald. You should just go bald at this point. Like, yeah. Somebody said, is that crowd drunk? Maybe. They might be. Because this is honestly not that funny.
Given that level of scrutiny, I think I'd even worn a Yankees hat.
What? Like, you can tell somebody is attempting to teach him American baseball and American baseball teams, and he just doesn't get it. And he's like, he just needs to stop. Stop digging yourself a hole, buddy. You don't know anything about this. It's not a sport in the UK. You're still desperate to be a UK citizen here, so like just stop it.
Okay, maybe not a Yankees hat, but you get the dynamic, right?
He doesn't get the dynamic.
As for my wife, well, she lived in Toronto for years and has deep affection for this city.
She has never been back, by the way. She has never been back to Toronto, as far as I'm aware, since she became a royal. Never been back. So how much affection does she have for a place she never goes to? And when her and Harry were trying to find, their peace after a difficult year in the royal family, they went to Vancouver, Canada, not Toronto. If you really had, let's say, some sort of roots in Toronto, would you not go back to Toronto? She went to a place where she didn't know anyone. And so it's just like, yeah, it's just sort of another lie there.
So much so that many people around the world still believe that she is, in fact, Canadian.
I only think very, very ignorant people think that, because she's very obviously American.
So I think hopefully you can forgive her as a native Californian for her Dodgers loyalty, even if just for one evening.
I don't understand why the need to endlessly talk about this. He's trying so hard, guys, to make the Canadians believe he likes Canada. He's trying so hard. Oh my gosh.
But truthfully, and jokes aside, this city always meant a great deal to me. You provided me a wife.
It did not. They did not, Harry. They did not provide you a wife. Megan has a very tenuous connection. I have lived in several places and I've moved quite a bit, and I would find it very weird if a future husband said, "Oh, you are how should I put this? Oh, somewhere gave you to me." And it's like, "No, like my family did, but like a particular community, not really." Not really. I would more say, let's say if we met at a church or something, and I thought they met in like London. So why is he talking about Canada? That doesn't make any sense, really. Had to get a nice word in there for the wifey, because she's not going to be happy if he's not endlessly praising her. So it all comes across as extremely odd. And it comes across as trying so incredibly hard to make them like him. And there's a reason for that, I think. When you watch all this, it sort of kind of slams together, is that Harry really, really desperately wants to be royal again. And he's petrified that, like, if the Canadians don't like him, that route back with, his family in a way is going to diminish for some reason. I don't know why he thinks that would be, but that's just not going to be the case. Harry decided to leave, and he will always be burdened with the series of catastrophic decisions he made around Mexit. He'll always be burdened with that. That'll always stain everything he does, no matter how far he gets away from it. And it shows you how incredibly shallow he is in many ways, and how incredibly, I think, petrified of the real things he should apologize for, is that he has this little thing that he's infinitely apologizing for. When the big thing, disrespecting your grandmother, your grandfather, your father, your brother, the rest of your family, Harry cannot do. It's a bit easier for him to apologize for some minuscule thing no one cares about at all. Really, at the end of the day, again, this would have all blown over. Nobody would have cared. Like the story was gone. Now we always know that Harry's a liar, but the story is out of the way. You don't, when your story is gone, and like a negative narrative is gone, you don't want to like revive it. That's just obvious 101 PR practice. It had mostly blown over. But Harry, I think, hates aspects of his life. He hates being in Hollywood. And so he wants back. He wants back. I think this is, let's say, a reflection of a level of midlife crisis. He is living in California, and California is a lovely place, but it's very expensive to live there. There's a lot of, especially in the entertainment industry, very shallow people. What I find interesting sometimes is I used to listen to the Office Ladies podcast, and then it's like, well, I wasn't ever that invested in The Office, so I was like, just like I'm good. And one of the things that annoyed me about it is that if they had a guest on or something like that, they would just endlessly praise the person for how amazing they are and yada yada, and they would go on and on and on. And I remember thinking to myself, how much of that is really true? Because all of the entertainment industry, for the most part, it's sort of rare when you find somebody who goes, that's not a good person. It takes a while for those kind of narratives to get out. I mean, they all protected Harvey Weinstein for years. There were very few who were willing to say anything negative about him, and they all knew it. They all knew what Harvey Weinstein was like, and they covered for him, basically. All the industry did it. And so in that respect, I think there's so much shallowness in Hollywood that I'm sure sometimes Harry feels very, very adrift. And you also had the factor of Harry's wife is essentially moving on. She has a new career, this lifestyle brand. She's doing her own shows. Harry's not attached to things because it was Harry and Meghan together for pretty much everything until With Love Meghan. So Meghan's definitely going down her separate path. We've heard a lot about this. And I think Harry is floundering. I don't think he's done well in the industry at all. I mean, obviously, we see the reflection of that in the terrible sort of train wrecks that was the Invictus Games documentary and like Heart of Invictus and those sorts of things, which actually should have been their best performing thing or one of their best performing things. And it hasn't worked. And his wife now has this new company, which like started off strong, but it's crashed and burned. Again, Meghan will probably, guys, for the next 5 years, as long as that's ever lasts, will go, well, on the first day of launch, I sold out in 45 minutes. Guys, she will be saying that for eternity, just like the soap story. She will regurgitate that narrative again and again and again with the faux modesty and stuff like that. Even though now she launches her stuff, it's been over a week, and let's just check here just to see, like, doesn't seem like Oprah. I hate her website. It's just kind of an annoying website. It's not easy to find the things you're selling. And that's the thing, guys. If you're selling stuff on a website, it shouldn't look like, let's say, a travel blog or something. And that's what I feel like she's going after. Anyways, so we have this here. Everything's still available. Oprah Winfrey didn't help. Nothing helped. And so it's all there. It's overpriced. A lot of people, especially with the shutdown and everything, are feeling, the pinches in their pocket. And I don't think her stuff really appeals to many people. And she did the faux scarcity tactic in the beginning, and I think she's still doing it. And it's just something that doesn't work. It just does not work at all. And because once it stops working, it's become abundantly apparent that things aren't moving the same way. Because if the interest in the brand was growing, you should still see, let's say, pretty quick sellouts if she's doing just a limited stock every single time. But that it's not really moving, I think just indicates and reflects that the interest has dwindled. I mean, again, we don't know the actual metrics. She will never reveal the real metrics. But I can almost guarantee you, my instincts tell me that she started off really strong, but with the inconsistency of the releases and everything, like she should have like a calendar so people are aware, hey, this is what we're working towards. And that she doesn't do it, I think, turns off the average consumer. Like the only people buying this are her fans. Nobody else is buying this because they're not sure when it'll be in stock. If they like it, they're not sure when they're ever going to get it again, or they'll get it again. And sometimes that's just annoying. And then when it comes to the Godmother's bookstore thing, I think that's, again, a pretty pathetic and wimpy attempt. But like now she's going back to acting too. And so you have all these factors kind of rolling around together. And I think what we see of Harry, and we've seen this sort of a lot this year, and it's obviously growing. I think he's desperate to go back to the UK. I think he's completely and utterly desperate to go back. I think he wants his old life. I think he wants the accolades he used to get for being a working royal. I think he wants all those things that he doesn't get in his life now. And he's realizing he really, really misses them. It's like, well, buddy, you should have thought of that before you just went along with your wife's plans. Because again, Harry would not have done this on his own. There's a difference between if Harry wanted to go down this path and for Mexit, absolutely, if that's what he wanted, then sure, whatever. But if that is never what he, like, if that really wasn't his idea, if he was sort of forced into that idea, of course you will have massive regrets at some point because it was never really your idea in the first place. It was your wife's idea. And your wife did it in particular because she wanted to go back to Hollywood. Now, she never really wanted to go back to acting because I think even Meghan's probably pretty smart enough to know, or at least would hope is somewhat smart enough to know that her acting is horrifically awful and that she wasn't going to get any more roles. And I think that's true. I think once Suits was done, if Meghan had not met Harry, she'd be maybe getting some Hallmark features, but I really do think her future in Hollywood would have been done at that point. I mean, with the revival of Suits, she definitely 150% could have gone back and been part of a revival. I think that would have been probably the route she would go down, and honestly, it would have been the smarter one because Megan, of course, overshot her capabilities. She went too far and is now plummeting back to earth because she's average. She has no real talent. Her talent is somehow attempting to be talented. It's trying so hard. And so Harry's there in Canada and he just wants so desperately for you to like him. And he's putting it on so thick too. It's just like it's honestly gets a little embarrassing and I'm still not sure exactly. So hold on a second. He's trying so hard that he's at this, veteran center or whatever and he's trying to get like all the press on him, you could say. So I will turn the volume off because I don't really think we need to hear the volume. But here's Harry at the center, trying to get the pictures and he's trying to be Diana. He's going back to trying to be Diana. And it's just it's too little too late. He has made particular choices. And those choices are like, I think he kissed this woman's hand. And I'm like, why? Why are you doing this? You're not even in Canada. You don't live there. You really have no connection there, except for the Invictus Games. And it's annoying because I feel like the Invictus Games gives this guy a weird foothold into places he doesn't need a foothold into. Like, what does he offer? He can't actually help. He can't bring in money. He can't really bring in anything. And so, I mean, I'm sure it was lovely for the veterans to get a famous person to come hang out with them. But at the same time, it just feels also very staged, also very much an attempt. I mean, look at this dude sat in a bunker playing video games. He got in a helicopter for some videos and pictures. I don't think he was actually out in the field all that much. And he's milking it for all it's worth. Like there have been actual people who've done actual things. And Harry's just there to kind of do that. Oh, so that's where he did the whole, oh, I'm so sorry. And so now he's like painting and there's the lame apology thing from it's just way, way, way too much. And then you also had, although we didn't see it, like Harry competing very obviously with his brother. And I did a whole video on this, but Harry's team needs to be really, really conscientious of the fact that Harry constantly looks like he's trying to compete with his brother. And this is just not playing well to anyone at all. So he did this whole like William did a boat thing in Brazil and somehow Harry ended up on a boat too in Canada. And I'm like how? So hold on, let me see. Let's see if we can pull up the video here real quick. Yeah. So Harry is doing, let me pull up the, so it's at an event and so we can't see him going outside. We're just trying to find it here. But yeah, Harry is essentially trying to copy his brother. And it just comes across as really, really odd. And it's like his PR team should know as well that the comparison will always be there. So they have to work even harder to avoid the comparison and to avoid looking like they're competing. And they just can't do it. They absolutely cannot do it. And it's like, do you guys not want to find this or whatever? It's just one of those things where if they could just, I think, figure out how to not look like they're copying, they would be just so much better off. Just stop trying to do the cosplay royal routine. You are not royal anymore. You're not a working royal. You represent nothing but yourself and your own business interests. Why are you doing this? It's just getting to the point of absurdity of what he's done. Like it's just getting to the point of absolute absurdity. And he just needs to, I think, he just needs to stop it and just let it go. Accept his new life, accept the life that he's allowed himself to be taken into by his wife. And just find new purpose in life. So here's kind of the comparison. Here's from the Daily Mail. I just found this on X. So William on the boat, and then Harry is on the boat like literally the next day. Literally the next day. His team should know better, but again, it's all so bizarre. It's all so bizarre and weird. And it's like, I thought you were happy. I thought this was a happy decision. You had a freedom flight that you two took together. You were in your phone doing a selfie video going, oh, yes, we're free. We're free. And then you're just attempting to go back into the cage that's already been locked. Because I guess what Prince Harry has figured out, which I think pretty much most of us on the internet were warning him about, is that most likely the grass is not greener on the other side. And if you do something just because your wife tells you to do it, you will probably end up resenting her at some point, resenting the life that she laid out for you guys, because it wasn't really your collective idea as a couple. It was Meghan saying, well, Harry, oh my gosh, Harry, like the media is so mean to me. Oh my gosh, we need to escape. And he went along with that. And now he's stuck in a life he doesn't really want. And that was his mistake. And he can't seem to own it. But again, he will endlessly obsess over the wearing of a baseball hat when he should have just let that go. But instead, he has to, I think, desperately cling to anything, desperately hope that he's liked, desperately hope he can sell to the world that he's an asset. You should want Harry as a royal, right? Right? Wrong, Harry. Nobody really wants you as a working royal anymore. You left that world, and that's totally fine, but you have to be the one who owns that decision. Trying to go back and trying to cosplay and mimic the role that you had before just makes him look, I think, incredibly pathetic. It's really pathetic. So, yeah, that's where we're at with Harry's very bizarre tour of O Canada. But let's get to some super chats here while we have a second before we move on to, should we move on to as ever, maybe a little bit? So we do have Carol saying, gifting One World News Network membership. I thank you so much, Carol. Someone will really appreciate that. We also have a super chat saying, Harry is a hypocrite. Why, yes, he is. 100% is. We have Angela saying, Harry does what Meghan tells him. We all know it. Exactly. I think that's the big issue with the Dodger thing as well. One of the things I thought which was kind of an interesting idea, is that Meghan wanted them to match. It was all, again, part of the cosplay. We got to match, Harry. We got to wear the hats together. You know, we got to look like a couple. Where actually, I would think the more interesting dynamic of a couple is is two people who wear the opposite baseball hats. Because that tells me, oh, they come together and they can still enjoy the game together, but they are rooting for different sides. Like, guys, people do that. It's like totally fine. But I actually honestly think it's weirder that they had to match and wear the same hats. He couldn't wear a shirt or whatever. They had to wear the exact same hats. And it's just like, again, just getting to the point of weird. We have Peggy Spungen. Thank you so much, Peggy, saying the contrast between William and Harry is striking. William stays authentic and grounded, while Harry feels more, and I would argue, I would make a little grammar suggestion, more and more performative. Harry, I don't think was usually like performing previously in his royal roles or anything like that. But I think because of the pressure of Meghan, because of, I think, the increasing need to sort of try to reclaim that favorability he used to have from the public, he's more and more willing to perform like a clapping seal in order to try and get some of that good graces back. But that good grace, I think, comes from not faking it and doing a stupid stunt with like an assistant, I'm sure, who went out and bought him that hat in Canada so he could, like he could do a little acting session to place it on his head. Like, the real thing to have done is probably just to not focus on it at all, because any of the quote unquote good work he does is now completely overshadowed by the stupid hat. So that is my thought. All right, Carol, thank you so much for the super chat as well, saying Harry is suffering from the consequences of Brexit. Yeah, he can't. This was the obvious outcome. I think the only person who didn't realize this was the outcome was Harry, and maybe Meghan too. I think Meghan thought her time in Hollywood would be a bit better, but I don't think that's gone super as well for her as she wanted it to. But again, like I've always said, a royal title is not a magic wand. It doesn't automatically imbue you with the talent you did not have before. She doesn't have talent in this industry at all. So her kind of failings here can only be the result of like choosing poorly when it comes to a career. It's not a career she was destined to, you could say. Lizzie B gifted 1 Royal News Network membership. Why, thank you, Lizzie. That is so, so incredibly kind of you. And so, yeah, let's move on maybe for a hot second to As Ever. And I did want to, let's see, Google one thing here. So if I find it, maybe I will, let's say, reshare it at some point. But one of the favorite things that Willem Alexander, oh, this might be it. So hold on, guys, because again, Harry's comment about, thanking Toronto for his wife, it just doesn't really make any sense. But I want to share with you one that I think actually is more correct here and one that's very cute. From the Netherlands.
Argentina is a vibrant, passionate country. And the country, of course, that gave me the most precious of gifts, my wife, our Dutch queen.
I love Maxima's little wink. So I love this because it, to me, it's just a great note. And she's from Argentina. So she wasn't living in Argentina at the time when they met, but she is from Argentina. So to me, I love this comment because it makes sense in the context. It makes sense that thank you so much. We have our beautiful Dutch queen from the beautiful land of Argentina. And so this was a very special, I feel like, state visit. Maxima didn't go fully all out, but this is the house diamond necklace here from the Netherlands, which she doesn't bust out too often. And she wore one of my favorite dresses, which must be one of her favorite dresses because I think hosting the country that you come from as queen is very exciting. So I feel like she wanted to put an extra emphasis into that. So anyways, guys, I just did want to share that real quick. And this is the dress, if you're not aware, obviously not a fantastic picture of it. But it actually has this gorgeous kind of cape jacket thing that she's previously worn over it. And oh man, it's one of my favorite things. I was just going to see if we can see any other pictures. But that's not great quality either. But that necklace is very, very impressive. Some very, very old diamonds there. So anyways, I just did want to share that comparison. And it's like one of, I just think it's a very, very sweet little moment. And it makes sense. Harry talking about that with Toronto. It's going, no, it doesn't make sense because Willem Alexander actually goes, they usually go to Argentina, back to Argentina at least once a year, if not a couple of times a year as a family. So they have a very strong connection to Argentina. Harry and Meghan have no connection to Toronto. She lived there. But as far as I'm aware, again, she has never, ever been back. So just want to share that. It's always fun to share the other royals, guys. But let's go over, and again, As Ever has not sold out in the slightest. And the Oprah's favorite thing is not really, I don't think, moving anything. And what I find really interesting about this as well is just because of the prices of everything right now. And, I feel like inflation is still fairly high. We don't have, prices have increased quite a lot. It just feels like everything is getting more and more expensive. Like I went to, now granted, I got a lot of vitamins once, but I went to the grocery store. I was just there purchasing for myself and I spent $300 at the grocery store. Like, I mean, I got a lot of things that say were like, got a lot of vitamins and those sorts of things. So it was quite expensive, but I was like, oh my gosh, I'm just buying for myself. Like, where are these prices coming from? And so I feel like her stuff, looking at it, I can imagine it's not moving because it's too expensive. The only people buying this are the people who have already purchased it. And I just don't think even her display at the Godmother's bookstore is well done. And she's kind of, I mean, it's just kind of kind of weird in a lot of ways because I think she desperately wants this to work, and I just don't think it's working. I don't think anybody is all that interested in it. People, I think, are still confused about what hot toddy is. And she did what, one Instagram video for it? I did just like I just went back just to see if as ever like they don't even have she has one video talking about the hot toddy, but of course nothing talking about anything else. And she really needs to, I feel like, explain her products better. But I think the price is going to push away a lot of people. And the other thing that I mentioned before that I think is going to push a lot of people away is that you can't guarantee the stock. So one of the things that I think all of us appreciate is that if we really, really like something, we would like it to be in stock again. So one of my actual favorite hot chocolates, and it's been so long since I've had it, I'm not even sure if I just remember it being my absolute favorite, and I was so bummed I didn't buy more of it. But it was, I want to say it was the I want to say it was cinnamon hot chocolate from Wittard of Chelsea. And they had it in stock for a while, never brought it back into stock, and I'm so incredibly bummed. I was so incredibly sad because I liked it so much, and they didn't have it, and they never had it again. I'm looking at their site right now going, "Hmm." And I tried the hot honey, and the hot honey was only okay. It wasn't the best. So, to me, I think Megan is way overshooting the market as, of what the market is right now. I think she doesn't explain what her products are, why we should buy them, beyond saying, "Oh my gosh, it makes your house smell so good." Well, I mean, that's great, but also I have a plugin that can do the same thing. So she needs to figure out something different. And I do find it quite funny that she kind of uses the same things every time to kind of try to sell her stuff. And I'm like, "Oh, sweetie, honey, sweetheart, that's just not gonna work after a while." You have to think of more than the things you've said 5 times. So it's just a challenging thing for her. And I honestly, somebody asks here, Susan says, there are zillions of anything you can want. What makes her stands out? Exactly. Her thing basically is I'm a Duchess, buy my stuff. That is her entire business strategy at this point. And we can already see the failings of that, which is why I think she's gone back to acting. I don't know if it'll be a longer term strategy, but I don't think she would be going back to acting if she could help it. She wanted to get, let's say, a tier up. So be an executive producer, because technically you can make more money as an executive producer, obviously, but you also have to put something into it and get something out of it. And so that's sort of one of the interesting things. But I did see this comment pop up, and yeah, too old to care says, Brittany, did you hear about Harry asked an executive at some company to get him a hot chocolate? Yes, I did. So that's a really, really interesting story. So let me see maybe if I have that on my X feed. I think I might know which article that is. I think it's a page 6 one. But yes, it was really, really, really funny. It was funny because I was like, "Oh, you guys, goodness, they have really kind of sucked, haven't they?" So let me see if this is the right article or not. Okay. So yeah, let's check out this article because it goes along with, I think, the kind of move towards as ever and everything, and why they're kind of trying so many different things. And it comes back to this idea, I think, when it comes to branding and messaging and everything, is that you can't do 12 things. You have to really focus on one thing and do it well, and then you can expand. You can't do everything. Now, for me, obviously, I kind of want to do everything in the royal space, but I did find that I didn't really have time or the capacity to really do everything. I couldn't do all the book reviews and movie reviews and everything that I want. So I stick more to commentary, and then I do the fashion channel as well. So those things all together sort of reflect a sort of fascinating, I would say, like, conundrum here, which is that there's a lot of different stuff that goes into different things. And like once I established myself sort of as a pseudo royal expert, it kind of allows me to expand into other areas at some point. So let's go ahead and take a look at this page 6 article because it's going to be kind of awesome. So it says, and I had to double check, make sure I could find the hot chocolate. It says, they're hopeless in professional settings, the source says. Let me see. Did I miss anything up top? Oh, I did. So, oh gosh, I hate all the ads. So as a Hollywood source tells Page 6 that when it comes to Meghan Markle and Prince Harry, there's not only no appetite left for them in LA, but they've also worn through any goodwill they had. And I'm not surprised. Again, you're in an entertainment industry that is starting to fail pretty massively and starting to go under, and you're interested in people with talent, which neither one of them have. And a lot of people can get by for a long time on pretty minimal talent. Like I listen to, guys who talk like I like to listen to Neurotic or whatever and Critical Drinker. And one of the things I think that is very true is that people really thought for a long time J.J. Abrams was the bomb. And then he really, really bombed with was it The Last Jedi? No, that was Rian Johnson. The Rise of Skywalker, that's what it was. He really bombed out with that. And it sort of revealed him to the world for kind of the hack that he was, because he should have, like, Star Wars in my mind works because it's an eternal story, and you needed to have all three trilogies, kind of a through storyline, but there was no through storyline. And so J.J. Abrams set it up. It wasn't that interesting, but he did. And then Rian Johnson wrecked everything he did. And then all of a sudden we're getting over here, and Rise of Skywalker is trying to go back and fix everything that was wrong in the previous movies, yet making more, like, a whole lot more of a mess in the process. And he hasn't really directed a movie since then. And there could be a lot of reasons for that, but I think people are somewhat waking up to some of the hacks that are in the entertainment industry, and they are one of those. Although somebody else also said that there's a lot of not so smart people in Hollywood, which I'm sure there are. And these two would be one of the not smart people. Another source tells us people are sick of them. The act has gone stale. Yes, it has. Yes, it has. And they're hopeless when it comes to business. Just hopeless in professional settings, which I imagine is true because we had The Dictator in High Heels. We have, like, when they should make, basically every article or a lot of them says when they should make decision A, they make decision D, like all these sorts of things. And it says, we're told, which is kind of funny, Harry even allegedly showed up late to a Netflix meeting and then asked an executive for a cup of hot cocoa. This is apparently his go-to choice of beverage. I mean, I can't deny that. I like hot chocolate as well. But the difference between me and Harry is I never go anywhere expecting hot chocolate. I know enough to know that most people don't have hot chocolate on hand, and especially don't have the hot chocolate I prefer. I like Whittard. I will do, like, the Starbucks ones they had. I will do a couple of different ones. I hate Swiss Miss. Like, no, absolutely no Swiss Miss. So I will do a lot of them. I have Hotel Chocolat. I forgot I have that. So I need to do that too. So I have Hotel Chocolat. Like, so I'm very particular. I like Canopes. When I go to the UK, I love Canopes. So I have a lot of hot chocolate I prefer. And I know I'm not going to get that anywhere here except for at a Starbucks or some other, like, cafe. And even those, it's like hit and miss. Like, Starbucks is okay, and I'll do Starbucks, but I don't really do hot chocolate anywhere else. And I would never go into a business meeting expecting hot chocolate. I would just say, get me a water. That he goes into the meeting and he should know, like, hot chocolate, even in the UK, hot chocolate is, like, not, like, readily available everywhere. I mean, it's a lot more available than it is here, but it's like, you should not show up to any sort of business meeting expecting a very, very unique drink to be on hand. If I went to, let's say, a restaurant, they should have either Pepsi or cola. If they don't have either of those, let's say some places do have their own concoctions. It's like, I don't know. Like, it's very, very, like Rich says here, it's very entitled, and he comes across as clueless and classless because it's like it's just not there. And you should expect just general things. It says this. Okay. So there was none in the office. And so they had to scramble to obtain some. They should have just told him no. They just should have told him to be a big boy and get it from Starbucks. And if not, it isn't nowhere else. And I mean, the best, again, they could do is Swiss Miss, unless they had some poor soul go over to like Starbucks to get him a hot cocoa and put it in a different mug or something. The report also claimed an idea was pitched to Harry. What if he reviewed a hot chocolate every week while chatting with a different friend, which he and his team considered and rejected? Okay, what I find really funny is I would do that show. But I would actually, but the challenge of that, something like that too, is there's only so many hot chocolates. Like you would have to go to Europe and like there's just not that many options really. Like the only other option would be Williams and Sonoma. So we did hear this though in the Variety Vanity Fair article. And so let's go. She's convinced she's smarter than everyone and dismissive. This is Megan. Of course she is. She thinks she's the smartest person in any room, when often I think she's probably actually the dumbest person in any room, to be quite honest. Another source tells us Markle is the one in the couple who controls everything. Of course. Is anybody surprised by that at all? No. Why did Harry wear a Dodgers hat when he should have worn a Toronto Blue Jays hat? Because his wife told him to. His wife told him to. So and then it says the January 2025 Vanity Fair story quoted an anonymous source who's worked in media projects, saying the experience with Markle was really, really, really awful, very painful. A source previously told Page Six it was unfair. What could their staff truly do about it? The sources were anonymous and things could not be refuted. I like how they pulled out that. She's out of focus, but that's funny. So then we had the Hollywood Reporter claim she belittles people. She doesn't take advice. They're both poor decision makers. They change their minds frequently. Harry is a very, very charming person. No airs at all. But he's very much an enabler, and she's just terrible. But then it goes down. There's not all doom and gloom, and claims that, you know, Ted Sarandos is still really, really interested in them. I really don't think he is. I've said this before, and I'll say it again. Ted Sarandos is not banking on Harry and Meghan to like booster or bolster any sort of foundations for Netflix. He's not relying on them at all. I think they're actually going to start to really look to Asia to for content and stuff, which they already are doing. I think that's just going to increase. So he remains a fan. You can be a fan, but you can also realize that they don't bring in any money. And their first look deal is similar to the Obamas, you know, because Meghan had to reference that. But I still don't think even the Obamas deal is that good. And their stuff was kind of hit and miss. They really didn't have a knock out of the park really either. So it may give them flexibility, but also gives Netflix a lot of flexibility. So anyways, Harry and the hot chocolate, though, I just find very, very funny. So I would tell anyone, don't ever attempt to like, if you like hot cocoa, don't ever go into any business meeting expecting hot cocoa. If you go to like a display and they have hot cocoa available, you can go, oh, that's so awesome. I'm so glad. Like, don't expect it. And if they don't have it, just get a water. If they don't have exactly what you want, just get a water. That's just how it should be. But I think when it comes to Hollywood, for sure, they've definitely fallen out of, like Harry and Meghan have fallen out of favor. They don't bring in the money. They get the clicks. But again, it's about conversion. I've said this a lot. I'll say it again. Harry and Meghan generate a lot of noise. It doesn't convert. And that's a huge, huge thing. Well, let's get to some super chats here since we've done a little bit more chatting. We have Sheila who gave a $10 super chat. Why, thank you so much, Sheila. That is so sweet of you. And we also have Leo Jackson. What will happen if Harry got arrested? The body cam was uploaded, revealed he was drunk, resisting, and was wrapped. I don't know. Like if so it depends on the state, I think, how easy it is to get body cam footage. So it's really easy from states like Florida and stuff. That's why you see a lot of the body cam videos are from Florida. That's the reason, is that it's easy to get them. There's a couple of other states, but like if Harry was arrested, it'd be reported. Like you can't get out of reporting that. Now, again, the question becomes, does he have a diplomatic passport? It's a big question. He should just have a green card here in the state or whatever. He should not have, let's say, any sort of diplomatic visa, because he's not a diplomat. He's a guy attempting to make money. So it's sort of big difference. So Teresa says, hello, all. Sorry I'm late. Hope all is good. Why, thank you. That is so sweet of you. You were not late. You are right on time whenever you want to arrive. Alice says, hi, Britt. What one piece of advice would you give Harry and Meghan? I would honestly tell them to, I think, just drop everything and just live quietly for a couple of years and then maybe attempt to make a comeback. Because I think what's gotten to the point of just simply annoying people is the constant coverage and churn. I've described it as sort of vomit. I feel like Megan sometimes just vomit as content all over us. And it just feels like she gets wildly overexposed, and so does Harry. And I think she likes the clicks, but honestly, I don't think it's helping either one of them. Again, silence would be better. Silence for a period of time. Then actually have a good idea. Don't just go with whatever Bella Bajaria says, because she's probably just lying to you, hopefully making you do something. But when it comes to what is it? When it comes to their businesses, their portfolios or whatever, I think what's killing them is that they rush everything and they don't really have good ideas. And neither one of them are good story makers. And so they need to, let's say, go out, like live in the woods for a while, get a nice place in the mountains and like really, really think. And then maybe, just maybe they might come down with some good ideas. But I just really don't think that's going to be what happens. Alice Ransom Rave says, Brittany, I love hot chocolate too. Have you ever tried Black Forest Ghetto hot chocolate? It's amazing. Cherries, cream, and dark chocolate. I have not tried that one yet. I'm considering getting the Williams and Sonoma ones because I haven't had those yet. And I do like the whatchamacallit. And of course I like Wittard's Hotel Chocolat. So that's usually what I get, but I will have to check that out. Carol said, who gets an executive to deliver hot chocolate while being late? That's a great question. Sometimes I think people like Harry and Meghan would be really kind of like when they were children. It'd be really beneficial to tell them no. Tell them no. Like, I have other people who can do more important things. Now, the executive didn't give him hot chocolate. The executive had an assistant get the hot chocolate. But then it's like, where do you get hot chocolate? In American offices, it's coffee. If you don't drink coffee, don't get anything. Tea is also available, but that's a little bit less consistent of an offering. I would argue let's say, get a water. That would be my suggestion. If you go into, let's say, if you're getting interviewed or something, just get a water. Just don't make it complicated. You don't want to spill tea on yourself or coffee on yourself. My 2 cents of business advice or interview advice would be, if they offer you anything, just do water and that's it. Any meeting too, especially if you're in an office that's not yours, water and that's it. Teresa Holstom 1630 gave a $10 super chat. Thank you so much. Teresa said George Lucas had his own 3 last films. Disney said they'd use them, so he sold Star Wars to Disney, and then Disney never used those ideas. Me and my son are Star Wars nerds. Yes, I have heard that as well, which I think is very sad because it was definitely 100% George's baby. And I think, at least with the initial trilogy, I mean, the third one's a little shaky, but the initial 2, what is now known as episode 4 and 5, are great pieces of cinema, and how they were able to, I feel like, with practical effects and some special effects, like create a world that felt so real is amazing. And, the constraints sometimes that are offered by small productions result in innovation. And I feel like we've lost that a lot in the entertainment industry. And even if Disney bought it or whatever, like to make a Star Wars trilogy, they needed to have a plan in place and they just didn't. They were just going to let the next guy take up the plan. It's like, you kind of need to have an end goal in mind. My personal theory, if you're ever writing or doing anything on a TV show or movie, is that you should generally have an idea for the ending in mind, but allow sort of the natural creative impulses that come into play as you're creating something to change the perspective or the course of things as necessary. Don't do that too much, but be allowed to do that. I mean, Star Wars did that in the end way, way too much. And as a result, they lost the entire franchise. So that is a sad day. That is a sad day. Yeah. The modern stuff was awful. It was, yeah. Yeah. And Teresa says one rider as well. Yeah. One rider would have been good. And yeah, just keep knowing where you're going. And so you set this tone for everything, because it felt like I was like walking out of movie 2 going, I have no clue what just happened, because they set up this bad guy and then he was gone. And I'm like, wait, what now? Like my brain hurts. But anyways, we will get to, usually I like to do probably about the last 30 minutes as, kind of answering questions and stuff like that. But I did want to sort of, let's say, tease something that I will be working on, because I have gotten super sort of engaged with all the stuff going on in España, in Spain. And it's an interesting question, because I do see some people making this critique, which is that, and I'm just going to pull up a picture of the Spanish royal family, so you have to give me a second, is that some people have suggested that Queen Letizia of Spain is basically the Meghan Markle of Spain. So there is a Meghan Markle in Luxembourg 100%, but is there a Meghan Markle in Spain with Letizia? And again, I feel like this needs to be like a much, much longer investigation. I'll go through some things or whatever to kind of explain to you guys kind of how we're getting to particular conclusions, because there's a lot to this, because Spain is a very complex, I feel like, royal family dynamic, more than just about anywhere else. And it's an interesting question to consider for sure. So here is who we are talking about. So we have Queen Sophia, the former queen, whose husband had to resign basically in disgrace due to a lot of scandals. So this is the current king, Felipe. This is Letizia right here. This is Sophia, their youngest daughter, and their oldest daughter, who is Princess Leonor, and then Infanta Sophia. So what are we sort of talking about? Again, this is a preface type of thing. But I think actually Letizia has been really, really smart and strategic. And it's an intelligence, because people always want to say that, oh, somebody who disrupts, or somebody who's considered, let's say, not as royal as some people want, is sort of a bad influence. And of course, we do have, as Jill C mentioned, the shaman guy in Norway, very much a Meghan Markle character. But Letizia is not. And the reason Letizia isn't is because she has been very, very, I think, conscientious of the fact that his family is a whole load of mess, and scandal. And yes, Sophia, the former Queen Sophia, is not, let's say, engaged in all of it, but she's definitely played a bit of a role here too. And I think what Letizia has tried to do is to basically keep her husband and her children away from his mess of a family, but in a positive way, because his family is a train wreck. So I was reading again a royal forum last night, and they were talking about things. So apparently, obviously, Felipe, because he was the only boy, was very much the favored child of the family, especially by his mom. And then we have the philandering of King Juan Carlos, so Sophia's husband, who apparently has slept with like thousands of women, it's been alleged. And like what led to partially his fall from grace is a literal fall where he broke his hip on a safari in Botswana with his mistress. So that did not go over well. He's been part of numerous financial scandals. There's a lot of questions of how much money he has. And I was reading through, and again, there's so many scandals that honestly, I need time to kind of wrap my mind around all of them so I can share at least some of them with you. But there was actually some sort of Black American Express card. They said Black card. I would imagine it's Black American Express. If you're not familiar with those cards, basically they're limitless cards. You can spend as much money as you want on them. And members of the family, including Sophia, but not King Felipe or Letizia, were using this card very liberally, and some shady dude was paying it off. And this includes not only Sophia, but sort of the mess that is her daughters. So we have Christina and Elena. Now it's Christina who's more of the problem issue here. Elena's been pretty quiet, but Christina's husband was wrapped up in a huge financial scandal, and he actually spent time in prison for that. And it's hard not to see, echoes of Juan Carlos there. And so Christina eventually divorced him, but I think Letizia saw sort of the mess and wanted to sort of keep their family away from it and her daughters away from it. Because I think she was smart to see that there were definitely some bad influences with his family, 150%. And yes, they interact with Sophia a bit more, but I think it's because I don't think she's super happy of the fact that in some ways she's not queen anymore. Her husband is still alive, but they're not together. He actually just read a book or wrote a book, which is why we're talking about it, where he complains about his relationship with obviously Leonor and Sophia. But you have to understand too, Juan Carlos was in a lot of financial scandals and other scandals, and so it's like, why would Letizia really want her daughters around him that much? I wouldn't want my kids around him either, to be quite honest, regardless of their, personal, like, regardless of the fact that he's their grandfather, like, they can meet with him, they can see him, sure. But I'm like, I don't want you growing close to him. I don't really want you growing close to some of your cousins because they're wrapped up in a lot of these scandals as well. I think some of those kids also use some of those credit cards, and the daughters are closer to Juan Carlos because of the money he can offer, not because necessarily, let's say, and be argue that they are not uh not just because they love him, but he is their financial stability. He gives them money, so they're nice to him. So this is just a sort of a dynamic that we don't see too much in aspects of Europe. So we do have obviously the scandal in Belgium with the king fathering a child out of wedlock that offered a bit of instability, but the family itself is pretty stable. And it was just more like health issues and stuff like that. So he's not quite as bad. And then you have, let's say, the family dynamics in Sweden, where the king and queen very much favored their son, their middle child, over their daughters a little bit. And so that has factored into some things as well. But I think what Letizia has done is try to minimize the association with aspects of his family to minimize the impact. And some people don't like the fact that she's a commoner. There, I think, is very much an element of what's the word I'm looking for? Egotism among the Spanish aristocracy. They wanted him to marry somebody that is a Spanish aristocrat. We have Sophia herself, who is actually a princess of Greece. She was born a princess of Greece. And so you have that factor in there as well. And so somebody like Letizia, who is sharp when it comes to PR, she was a former journalist, and she, I think, is very, very conscientious of optics of things. And so she's knows that she needs to include Sophia. Juan Carlos is has escaped to Abu Dhabi, basically. So she, they include Sophia in things where they can, but it feels like she kind of wants to smother them too. So I think she's walking a very, very careful line there, and I think has navigated it really, really well. And she's one of the hardest working royals in Europe, Letizia. She is constantly, constantly working. And I think, yes, some people maybe don't like her because, they think, I've heard a lot, well, she's cold and all these sorts of things. And I really don't think that is totally the case. She did great in Dana, or Dana, which was where the flooding was, like last year. She, you could see that she got very emotional and stuff like that. So I think there's a lot of factors here that are well worth exploring. So there will be a whole video on that. And so I guess, wanted to tease all of you that are here that you think the Brits are, you could say, the worst of it, but the Spanish have their own issues as well. And just because I think somebody comes in and, let's say, what I think is smart here is that Letizia, although she respects the institution 100%. She is not, let's say, dogmatic when it comes to protocol. And I think that's okay. I think that's okay. But some people criticize her, I think, for not being dogmatic when I think there is some benefit to not being to being royal and respecting the system, but not being so rigid that you can't, let's say, do other things. And I think Letizia walks that line pretty well. But again, a lot more to go into a little bit of that here, like in a future video. But I just thought, well, this would be fun to kind of talk to y'all about this for a second. And because I was just going down a rabbit hole. There's a guy I want to talk to about Juan Carlos and everything. So hopefully a lot more coming there soon. So we can see all the chaos is not sort of relegated to the Brits, but it just takes me a little bit longer to get the Spanish because obviously we have to go through translations and kind of years of history and these sorts of things. So guys, that is pretty much it for what we have for the the afternoon tea today. So let's go get to some questions. I do have Too Old to Care who says, Brittany, do you think Meghan Markle requested everyone involved in the movie to sign an NDA? I mean, to be quite honest, they were probably like, they're all required to sign an NDA of some point of some sort. I don't know if it's particular to her or not, but yeah. Aram Scout said, oh, a deep dive on the Spanish RF. Yes, we need to do that. We need to do that. Like there's books I want to read, like so much. Susan says she seems self-centered. I know nothing about her. If you're talking about Letizia, I mean, I don't really think so. She does, again, quite a good job. I think if you were too self-centered, I think it would be hard for you to be a royal. But everybody, of course, has their burdens. Duchess Frankie says, should stay together. Basically, yeah, we are the same modern times, but some ladies don't want fresh blood. Exactly. There are some definite, peripheral, kind of certain members of royal families and stuff like that who do prefer as much as possible. And yes, people who are in the aristocracy do definitely interact a lot with, royals and those sorts of things. And so there is this desire, I think, for some aristocratic blood in some ways. And I think Sophia being a princess herself, there's some kind of old world views there. And the general thought, at least I thought, was that she probably really wanted Felipe to marry somebody else. But he married somebody who I think has a lot of integrity because we have not seen the scandals of Juan Carlos hit Felipe or Letizia, because I think Letizia obviously, I think, together with her husband, of course, were like, we have to keep your family somewhat at arm's length in order to keep this institution alive. And honestly, as well, like they are respectful for them. Of course, there's a video, and we'll talk about this in the Spanish video, but there is, I think, some tensions, but they're not like outwardly trying to, let's say, be rude and destroy them or something like that, like Harry and Meghan are. It's just an acknowledgement of, yeah, they're sort of his family is toxic, has issues and everything like that. And the only way they can really survive is to not actually be part of it, or at least minimize contact. World Gone Mad 24 says, hi, Brittany and all. It's very suspicious that Meghan never talks about Archie being born in the UK and dedicating as ever item to him as reminding him of his British roots. I mean, I don't know totally, but Meghan is always been a bit weird about the birth stories, and I think partly because it's not about her. She doesn't talk about the kids much at all in some ways because it's not really about her. And so there's an aspect of her, the narcissist aspect, that I don't think really cares. All right, and we do have, okay, Teresa here, just want to make sure I hadn't read this super chat yet, and asked, do you think if Henry Mountbatten Windsor, now I wish, would be done this if he never married Rachel, Meghan Markle? So, because again, my understanding has always been blood royals are only ones who can have Mountbatten Windsor. But anyways, when it comes to would he have done this if he hadn't married Meghan? No. If he had done this, let's say, and he had married Chelsea Davy or something like that, he might have ended up doing something similar, but it would have been like their own choice together. I think the thing with Chelsea is that she wanted him to make the choices. She wanted him to lead and be the man, and Harry couldn't do it. And so Chelsea ended up, breaking up with him. And you kind of see this reflected, like, sorry. And you see obviously how Harry went with somebody who's basically his mother. And it's just kind of sad. All right, Maggie, thank you so much for the super chat here. Maggie Becker says, thanks for the wonderful live, Brittany. Hi to Miss Pippa. Enjoy your weekend. Why, thank you. Miss Pippa is downstairs. I leave the door open for the lives in case she comes up. But she is actually went to the groomer today. So she looks all cute and pretty. And there is I want to say as well, when it comes to, I did see something about the Habsburg. There was a really interesting jewelry find related to the Habsburgs. And so I will hopefully do a video on that maybe sometime this weekend for the fashion channel. But I don't know. Last night I was doing a video for the fashion channel on Queen Mary and Queen Letizia. And those videos, just because I get video and stuff like that for them, just took a while to edit. I get a lot of pictures and stuff. And then I did the recording and editing of the video I got up last night. So honestly, I'm a little tired. I didn't really do anything today. And I don't really actually have anything planned for tomorrow. My last couple of weekends have been really busy, but this weekend not. And so it's a time to maybe catch up and do a video on the finding of the Florentine diamond, which is really, really cool. And then we also have, I'm doing some, hopefully people look forward to this. I don't know, maybe they won't. But I'm also planning on doing, guys, some gift guides. And the first one I'm going to do is on travel. So it'll be on the fashion channel, but I'll link it here as well. So if you guys are interested in, like, I have a travel one, I have a Catherine inspired one, I have I think I'm going to do a general fashion one, and then some of my personal favorites. So if you guys are interested in any of that, hopefully maybe you will be, maybe not. Maybe maybe that'll be something to enjoy this weekend, because I was going to do it today, but honestly, guys, I'm just tired. Is that okay to say I'm just tired? Oh man. So Anne Houghton says Letizia brings a lot to the royal family, as does Princess Catherine. I agree. Teresa says I'll look on Audible for books on the Spanish royal family. There's a guy, his name is Paul Preston, I think it is. PhD. He's written some about the Spanish Civil War, and then he's also written a book on Juan Carlos, but that came out in 2005, but he is doing a follow-up because I could see that it'll be published in 2006, or 2026. So I'm looking forward to that. Carol says, interesting analysis of the Spanish royal family. Why, thank you. Ritz says, the Spanish RF are descendants of the Habsburg dynasty, I believe. Now that history is wild. Yes, so much history to go over. There's so much. Heather says, love Habsburg's history. Princess Goose says, if you're young, you believe yours will succeed. If you have youthful exuberance, if you're older, you want money and power. It's hard to find someone that's naive at that age. So that looks like another conversation. Duchess A. Frankie says, Carol, I'm specifically talking about a certain type of royalty. Sharon says, sounds interesting, but the corruption, geez, yes. Yeah. They said, though the Spanish are the Bourbons now. Yeah, very true. Duchess Frankie says, have to go. I'm sorry. And so, yeah, because there was a point where, so Catherine of Aragon, who was married to Henry VIII, her brother Philip, I want to say, took over the throne of the Holy Roman Empire, I want to say. So that would be a connection to the Habsburg side. Campo Paulina says, Letizia is terrible. I'm Spanish and it's awful for Letizia's rudeness towards La Reina Sofia, and Letizia flies to the Dominican Republic with her affairs. I mean, there's no real evidence of that. So I just don't really believe it. They work so much. I mean, I would just find it really, really difficult. And they look very much in love to me. Tina says, I love the info on the Spanish royal family. I know very little about them, and that was appreciated. You are welcome. Kira Cole says, Harry's living the embodiment of the Streisand effect. His life would be marginally better if he could ignore the stories in the press, but instead he always makes it worse. Exactly. Hawaiian Princess says, yes, I agree, Brittany. Why, thank you. Grace Kirk says, they have oversaturated us with this nonsense. Exactly. Oh, Leo Jackson says, what if South Park did an episode on the Norwegian royals like the Shaman Guy? That would be hilarious. The shaman guy. Oh my gosh, he is so creepy. I watched it, the Netflix. He's just creepy. He's just creepy. So Campo Paulina says Leticia has illegal businesses in the Dominican Republic and it was in the news. So I will have to look and see. But I also know as well she's gone to the Dominican Republic somewhat recently because she was doing basically it's like the Red Cross Spain or something to that effect. Lady Sauce Mink says, Brittany, have any other members of the royal family played themselves in a movie? Asking since she has been rumored to playing herself a question which version she'll play. So Sarah Ferguson, of course, played herself in Friends. That was kind of cute. So Megan is literally, kind of recreating Sarah Ferguson's life, which Megan would hate being part of Megan, like kind of embodying Sarah, the Duchess of York's Sarah Ferguson's trajectory. She's no longer Duchess of York. But we also know as well Beatrice played a background character in Young Victoria, which starred Emily Blunt. Campola Paulina says, but they cannot get into the spot because of the monarchy. So Olga says Spanish people don't like the way she treated Queen Sofia. So I actually have heard some don't, but some don't. But some see a different side because it's definitely. I feel like the anti-Letizia crowd is very strongly pushing. But honestly, I know at least what I've seen in some of the videos. But honestly, I'm not that impressed with Queen Sofia. I think a lot of it comes from how badly her husband treated her. Kind of, people want to sanctify her, and I'm just not that interested in sanctifying anybody. Ritz says, I believe the birth stories are at the root of why they were removed from the UK. I don't think so. So Campo Paulina says she is super rude and always her opinion is more important than anyone else and she's just too much attention seeking. I mean, I think from what I see, she's just doing her job. So I don't think it's too much attention seeking, really. A Hawaiian princess, Le Olas, or no, Aloha. There we go. My brain is kind of slowing down a little bit. Exactly, Brittany. She's not Blood Mountain Windsor. I keep saying she's still Rachel Meghan Markle. Exactly. Duchess Frankie says, don't be afraid of sharing your heart. Rich says, I love reading about the Habsburg. Fascinating stuff. Too Old to Care says, Chelsea dodged a bullet. Yes, she did. Mary Lou Polia says, Letizia has been horrible to Queen Sofia for many years. Juan Carlos did not like Letizia from day one, and Letizia already resented Sofia's relationship with Felipe, who is quite weak. So again, you have this dynamic here, I think, of people wanting Letizia to really bow down before Sofia, and she's not required to. She's queen now. Felipe and Letizia, once they married, they became one flesh. They became man and wife, and they are there to respect their parents, but they're not there to indulge them either. And I think there's a lot of desire for indulgence on the part of Sophia, and a lot of, people want, Letizia and the family to treat her with, so much reverence and everything. And while, some reverence I think is good, you can also overdo it. And I think, again, the only reason why Spain is still around right now is because of Letizia. If Felipe had married somebody else and was too beholden to his parents in a lot of ways, I think the Spanish monarchy would have been done because he might have been kind of dragged into that. And I think Queen Letizia was smart enough to keep their family out. I think that's the only reason they're still around. Grace says, enjoy your lives, Brittany. I also learned about business from you. You have a nice sounding voice. Why, thank you. World Gone Mad says, Brittany, how come there's never a royal visit from Morocco? How important is Morocco royalty? I mean, not like super important. So they don't get out too much. So, and as well, the king had, so I haven't heard of really the Moroccan royals ever really doing much of a state visit, but the king recently, I want to say it was this year or last year, had, I think, a pretty significant heart surgery. And when it came to royal events, foreign royal events, his ex-wife would usually go. And since they've divorced, we don't really see any Moroccan representation at most major events. So, yeah. Duchess Frankie says, Abs, you do so good, then I can send them. James says, Megan loves how cute she is in ball caps. I can see that. So Kempo says, monarchy supporters are walking away from the monarchy because of Letizia. The monarchy is not classy and elegant anymore. She has zero empathy. I actually think she does quite well. She works hard, and I don't think I think she kind of gets, I think, the modern aspect of a royal family. But yeah, not that. Impressed with the others. Tina says, you need to see if I'm subbed to the fashion channel. Yes, Royal Fashion News. Duchess Frankie said, the dressiest, the jewel, the whole world is interesting in the rough. The rules, though. Yes. Lindsay B says, yes, you can. Yes, you can rest, Miss Brittany. You're consistent with your work. Must be very tiring, but we appreciate you. Why, thank you. Teresa says, thank you, Brittany. I'm registered blind. I use Audible now. Very cool. Very cool. Yeah. I did see, I think some of the books, I don't think the biography on Juan Carlos, though, is available on Kindle, unfortunately, which usually mean Kindle usually kind of, you can do kind of Audible with Kindle too, I think. So I do find that a bit of a bummer, but I am interested in reading more about like the Spanish Civil War and how we got to Juan Carlos and then Juan Carlos II, kind of everything with Felipe. So Duchess Frankie says, Megan is a weak woman and I should have cleaned her up with the mop. Clifford says, I'm sorry I've missed the last 3 weeks. Well, I hope you are doing well. I hope you're doing well. Did someone ask if Meghan Markle can still use Sussex? No, she wouldn't be able to. But what I find an interesting question is how she'll be referenced in the movie. Will she be Meghan, Duchess of Sussex, or just Meghan Sussex? Again, I think, I'm will always be honest. I think Harry and Meghan could have made a good transition to Hollywood if they had wanted to. So I think there's a way for Meghan to say to the world, basically, hey, me and Harry are going to leave. And I want to do, let's say, producing in the entertainment industry. And I'm just going to go by Meghan Sussex or even Meghan Markle. Everybody knows me by that anyways. Let's not like make it super complicated. Just going to be Meghan Markle. It's totally fine. I don't care. I just want to do the work. If I go back to the UK for particular engagements, like the rare things we do, like funerals or jubilees or Tripping the Color or whatever, certain family occasions, yes, you may refer to me as the Duchess of Sussex. But when I'm trying to make it in the industry, just Meghan Markle is fine. Harry is Harry Sussex over here. We're all good. If they had done that and if they had not trashed his family on the way out the door, they would be in 100% a better spot now. But they've generated a lot of toxicity and that just doesn't go away. James Cake says, Harry plays everyone like free passes for the Duke when he's making huge mistakes. Yeah. Yep. Anne says, great live as always. Why, thank you. Bilk Moose says, did someone ask, can Meghan still use Sussex? Yes, she can. And we do have to say, so Andrew has officially been stripped of all his titles. Like the letter of patent went through and it like literally went up last week. So now the reality of the matter becomes, when are we going to do this for Harry and Meghan? Because clearly this is pretty easy, isn't it? Just extend it to Harry and Meghan. They will be a problem in 10, 20, 30 years if you don't put the kibosh on it now. You just need to do it now. The kids have only been using the titles for a couple of years. Just put the kibosh on all of it. And, then Harry will maybe get a grip. Betsy says, the YouTube channel, Useful Charts, has all the family trees. Oh, that's helpful. I actually have a book on royal family trees that I got at a used bookstore. Heather said, Crown Princess Marie Chantal commented that she didn't like the way Letizia treated Queen Sophia, said something about her being a grandmother to the girls. Yeah, I have seen that. So again, we will go over that entire video because I have thoughts on it. I didn't think we could do it today. Lizzie B says, I love your reaction video about Martha Louise and her husband. He is the creepiest dude ever. He's so creepy. He's so creepy. So Marie says, Infanta Christina's husband was in jail for financial scandal and then was caught cheating on her. Oh yeah, he cheated on her too. Again, lots in the Spanish royals there. Angela Dawn says, on Friends, Joey met Fergie while touring London because Chandler wouldn't go out with him. It was cute, quick cameo for the time. It was. Honestly, it was well done. I thought it was really well done. Mary says it would have been classier for him to admit he doesn't really follow live baseball and leave it at that. Exactly. Exactly. He could have done some self-deprecating thing, going something like, I'm British. I'm still trying to figure out all this American stuff, and I stepped in it. My sincerest apologies. Like putting it in a Southern accent. And I was like, that I think would have gone so much better over because I think that's the truth. He's like, but I went to the game and I hadn't paid much attention before, but I really enjoyed the atmosphere. I really enjoyed the culture of baseball. And so, yeah, I can see myself getting more into it. And maybe I change up my allegiances because what's cool too is the people who say, like my brother-in-law says he supports the Miami Dolphins, has never lived in Miami, but he's a Dolphins fan. He just decided which team he liked. And so you don't have to be geographically tied to this team you're a fan of. Like if you really like the game, you might find that hey, you like the Atlanta Braves. Harry does. Awesome. Or San Diego Padres. They would love that. It's like, decide who you like just be I think fun. Instead of going, oh, well, now I got to support the Toronto Blue Jays. Everybody's yelling at me. So now I really need to support. You didn't really need to do that, Harry. Just didn't. All right. We do have some super chats here who came in. Teresa Holtum, thank you so much, said, if she used her title on this film, then I think the title will be gone. Probably. I think the title on the film is just a little much. I just don't understand why she could not just have gone by Meghan Sussex, Meghan Markle. Like she'd be so much better off than insisting on everybody calling her the Duchess of Sussex. Cause I think that does wear on people after a while. Carol says, thank you so much for the super chat. Doesn't Parliament need approval to remove off the York dukedom? Apparently not. Apparently they figured out how to do that without actually involving Parliament. So apparently there are routes, which I'm like, well, where were these when we were talking about Harry? Like, if it's this easy, if you can do it within a span of a week, you can do it to Harry and Meghan. I know Charles is going to be devastated and he's going to be worried about the future relationship with his son. But all I can say is I don't know how much of that is there to salvage. And if your son will only be your son and only have a relationship with you with a title in tow, then he's a brat and not really respecting you as his father. And he didn't respect you as his father before. So yeah, that's my thought. Angela, thank you. Or sorry, Duchess Frankie. Justice Frankie, thank you so much for the super chat, $50. I really do appreciate it. I appreciate all of you guys so much coming on here, especially as we change the time. I feel like we're getting back into the groove. So thank you so much, Duchess Frankie. That is absolutely incredible and amazing. So thank you so much. Keep Miss Pippa in all her bones. She loves her bones. And so we have Too Old to Care says Harry's living the Truman Show. Yes, he is. So let's see if we have. Princess Goose says, if Meghan listened to Brittany's business advice and more importantly, marketing advice, she might be successful. Yeah. Well, I imagine some of my stuff is just bare bones basics. Like she could have totally she has to have competent people around her who could tell her the same thing I did, even better. Mary Luopoli says, I have been devouring Hola magazine since I was a teenager, thus a big fan of European monarchies. I never imagined that a prince of the realm could be such a clown show. Me either, to be quite honest. Me either. Clifford said, maybe Chelsea would have changed Harry to be a man not jealous of his brother. Yeah, I think if Harry had had a better wife, I think he'd be a lot more stable because I think what Meghan did is prey on a lot of his insecurities and just made them all worse. Leo Jackson says, I wrote a fan fiction yesterday in which European royals released a series of dolls based on them to raise money for charity, and the Carl Philip dolls were all purchased by Crown Prince Hussein of Jordan. Oh, that's funny. Oh, man. All right. Duchess says, take the support and buy until the next week. Oh, why, thank you so much, Duchess Frankie. I do appreciate it. So Heather says, Brittany, what royal forums did you read? So for many years, I haven't clicked on it quite so much because I feel like when it comes to at least a lot of the chatter about other royals, you can get some more of that information directly, through, Translate and everything. But it's called Royal Dish. And so they're not fans of Queen Mary broadly on that. platform. And actually, the Harry and Meghan stuff is locked. You can't actually even talk about Harry and Meghan on there. Like they block the whole thing because it's such a toxic mess. But what I found interesting here and why I was going back through is that it's like 5 or 6 pages in. So so many ads. So you can see there are 100 pages of different discussions on the Spanish. And so like you can go back through and see people talking about the stories, and you can get different perspectives and people who are, reading what's going on or whatever. And so like the original founders of the channel, I think, are Danish. So the Danish royals are first, then everybody else in alphabetical order, the British royal. And then I think down here are Will, Kate, George, and Charlotte, and Louis. And that's because at one point this was a pretty rockin' and rollin' uh, platform too. But this one I think is totally, they've totally haven't been able to talk since 2019. So some of it's not so kind on here and everything, but there is actually one of the things I've really appreciated about this, because I need to do another video about this, but royal fashion and jewelry, if they have this, I don't see it popping up here automatically, but they actually do have a whole like section of royals wearing the same thing. And so I just found that really helpful to me, because I was going to do a video about that, and similar outfits, just different colors. So they'll put like similar outfits that the ladies have worn, because I'm like, oh, I need to compare certain things. And so they find, because some of this stuff goes back like, ages and ages and eons. So there's a lot longer list somewhere of ladies wearing the same outfit. But this gets updated quite a bit. So it's just fun. It's just fun. But I used to be on here quite a bit, just like lurking, but I haven't really lurked anymore, or for very long anymore. But anyways, just an interesting thing. So CJE says Mexican hot chocolate has cinnamon in it. Yes, it does. Oh, it was so good. The Witter thing was so good, and I'm so bummed I didn't order more of it. Sir Squirrelot says, if there are so many lies in Meghan Markle's background, why didn't MI5 flag her before the wedding? I mean, they're superfluous lies. They're silly lies. They're dumb things you don't need to lie about. I think beyond that, it's like, they're like, well, if he wants to make a fool of himself, whatever, there you go. Abertassa says, do you think if Harry had married Chelsea Davy, maybe he still stepped back, but maybe quiet life in Africa or something, but not done spare it and fake awards show? Yeah, that's what he would have done. Honestly, Chelsea's life, when I was watching some of her profile during the lockdown, it looked magical. Do0308 says, late to the stream, but glad I'm catching up on some of the live. And I was thinking Meghan Markle could be a job selling TV dish soap. Yo, that would be good. Our Hani says, Brittany, anything on Meghan suing Prince William story? Sorry if I missed this. No, I don't think so. I haven't heard anything about that. Because there's a lot of, let's say, misinformation out there. So I try not to go with things unless they're officially reported by mainstream outlets. So Sir Squirrelot says, Kinsey and Neil Sean both said she insisted on the Duchess title, but producers want Meghan Markle because that's the trending name that hits. That is true, but you can usually dictate what your name is. So I imagine her name will probably be Meghan, Duchess of Sussex. That would be my guess. So Princess Goose says, Fergie is willing to poke fun of herself. Meghan is absolutely not. She should apply to be on Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. Her actions fit that show perfectly. I agree. And yeah, I think 150% that Meghan's Achilles heel, and I said this in the video last night, is that Meghan can't make a fool of herself. And ergo, that's why she's not a good actress. You have to be willing to poke fun at yourself and be foolish to sometimes get like appreciation. And she can't do that. Stephen Magnus, thank you so much for this $5 super chat. Says, it's rumored that Meghan is fighting to have her film credits as Meghan, Duchess of Sussex, but the film is using Meghan Markle. What a blow. So again, I don't know where we'll land on that. It'll be interesting to see. But Meghan Markle is probably what she should go as. But again, we have this very much all over the place narrative. This year, she's been Meghan Sussex, Meghan Duchess of Sussex, Meghan Markle. She can't decide which identity she is. And so I don't know. Lady Saucy Mink says he could have worn a Canadian team's hat and played off the competition with the guys who invited him to the box. Exactly. There were so many more clever ways to do it than what Harry did. Paul says Harry got given those best seats by that Magic Johnson game, and Meghan then Harry throwing it back in his face and claims he was supporting the Toronto Blue Jays that Canada pseudo royal tour and money. Yeah, it's just weird. It's just really strange. So Chantal says Andrew agreed to the removal of the title. No parliament needed. Harry and Meghan will never agree to that. Oh, very true. Yeah, we just don't know some of the intricacies of all of this, so it'll be interesting to see. Abert also says it's mind-boggling to think Harry and the children are so uncomfortably high in the line of succession and he doesn't live there and the children have no relationship with his family or the UK. Yes, exactly. That's why you need to strip them of the places in the line of succession. If there is no connection to the UK, like, yeah, it doesn't work. And I mean, we've seen throughout history where that usually doesn't work because there'll be some times where the king is not from the country. Too Old to Care says, I feel like Meghan just keeps poking the bear. Yep. Hawaiian Princess says, that's how she got him, Brittany. Princess Goose says, Meghan listens to no one. I don't know why she hires a stylist. She doesn't listen to them. A media manager, she doesn't listen. A business advisor, she doesn't listen. Yeah, exactly. Teresa also says here, if that happens, in my opinion, she'll regret it. Sir Squirrelot says, please hit the like button. Lizzie says, Meghan reminds me of Mel, Niall's wife from the TV show Frasier. That is a great comparison. That is a really, really good comparison. Yep. Yep. Jay, the Italian cookie says, oh, geez, freebie Fergie will be just fine. She's used to her life being in chaos. Very true. But she could always rely on the title and the connection to the royal family. So not having that will be actually quite different from her. Amanda said, I heard booing at Harry's speech. It might have just been playful booing against the Dodgers or something. Campo Paulina says, the Duchess is back to acting. Yeah, because she can't do anything else. And she's not even good at that. Oh my gosh, it's so bad. Prince Harry and Chelsea Daisy could have been much happier in a brilliant place if they had married. Well, I don't think So I don't know how much happier he would be because I don't know if they would be happy, but it's an interesting thought. Kempo Paulina says, I've never seen a Duchess having to work so hard. Yeah. Well, she wants to be a billionaire, guys. I feel like it's one of those kids, who's like, I want to be an airplane pilot. It's like, sure, honey, whatever you want. I feel like that's my reaction to Meghan going, I want to be a billionaire. Do you know how much hard work you have to do to be an actual billionaire? Do you know, like, you can't just sit there and scream at your assistants. You actually have to work. Heather says, Brittany, you've just opened a new world to me in the royal forums. Yeah, there's definitely a new world. You probably won't like everything, but yeah, it's definitely very interesting. We have KN Kiranen. Thank you so much for the super chat. So sorry I missed it there. It says, can you do more Jordanian royals too when finished with the Spanish? I can definitely go down that path because I don't know quite as much about them generally, but what I do know is that the king put his brother under house arrest basically for being worried that he would stage a coup. Because what's so interesting, I feel like, about the Middle Eastern royal families, which adds an interesting dynamic to them, is that the next person in line of succession is actually chosen. It doesn't usually go by succession or what we would consider succession. So it's an interesting dynamic. So we can definitely do that. And we do have Chris Overby. Hey, Chris, I hope you're doing well there in Sweden. Fergie and Meghan are both narcissists. Fergie is perhaps less self-deluded. I would agree with that. Fergie at least has, I think, some general sense of her own misgivings. And she's a little bit more, again, willing to fall on her sword in some ways. So Jay the Italian Cookie says, I actually see Meghan on Real Housewives. I don't know. Maybe they should just go around and exile Epstein Island. That'd be funny. Oh, Jay the Italian Cookie also became a YouTube member. Why, thank you so much, Jay the Italian Cookie. That is awesome. Crystal says, I would always pick the opposite team as my husband. If neither team was my favorite, it made life and the game interesting. Exactly. I actually think it would have made Harry and Meghan more interesting as a couple if they didn't sit there in matching hats. I mean, let alone could they not have had different hats? They had to have the same hat. Again, it looked like a costume and like in a bad play rather than being something I would argue that's natural. Heather says the only way Megan will be a billionaire is to marry one. Exactly. Alice Ransom Ray says Megan clings to the title because she knows deep, deep down that she has nothing else. That none of those awards, interviews, deals, and all is because of her. She knows this and hates it. Yeah. And you have to think as well, all of those, quote unquote awards and everything are just totally empty awards. They're awards that they basically paid for. And it's not really going to help them at the end of the day. They need to win real awards. She won that podcast award like fairly recently. But if you actually go down the list of winners, I feel like everybody they've chose, like basically everybody who applied got a place somewhere. So it felt, the more people they had awarded in this whole thing, the more meaningless it all became. So Abertasa says, I love history and fashion, so I really appreciate your knowledge of these things with the British royal family and other royals. Appreciate how fun you make it all. Why, thank you. Princess Goose says, if they both love the Dodgers and had been to many games, it would have worked. Yep. It's so simple and yet somehow so hard for people, or so hard for Harry and Meghan to get it. Lizzie B says, that reminds me of the Ottoman Empire in Turkey. In the past, Sultan chose between all of his sons. Women were excluded. Yep. It's like that puts an extra facet on the whole succession thing, because then you have sort of the rivalries. And then when you have the Middle Eastern families as well, you have multiple wives. And so again, I always find the emeritus emir of Qatar, so the former emir of Qatar who's kind of retired, he has a clear preference for his second wife because his second wife's son is the one who is now the emir of Qatar. And so, yeah, it's just a very, it makes it saucy. Lady Saucy Ming says, ooh, there's some stuff on the list. Luthu royal family. Thank you, Brittany, for mentioning the royal forum. You are welcome. P Pacific says, is Megan dropping a hint via Harry that hot chocolate will soon drop in the holiday stuff? Oh gosh, I hope not, because I would be pressed to actually do a review for that, because I do have I have a carefully curated hot chocolate palette. So I feel like I can give you guys a good evaluation. And Steven says her podcast award was only invented for this year's awards. Yeah, it was some award, but they were like, I want to say 500 winners. 500 winners. So guys, we will go ahead and wrap this up here. Let me make sure I didn't miss anything, guys. So thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you have a fabulous weekend. Again, if you've been watching these streams, you know that some of these bits will show up again during the weekend, and hopefully more will show up on the fashion channel as well. But guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Have a wonderful weekend with your family and friends, and I shall speak to you again very soon. Bye.